Good morning, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be here today. I am here because I want to give you all a gift. And that gift, I believe, will help keep you happy, healthy, and spiritually connected. I call that gift the gift of being giveful. So my wild, crazy, big idea is I want us all to adopt giving and receiving as a wellness practice. I want you to take your giving out of that philanthropic mindset and move it over to a routine daily practice that you embrace every single day. What do I mean by a wellness practice? Well, it's anything we do to improve the quality of our health, prevent disease, enhance the overall quality of our well-being. My mother has a wellness practice that she started in the 60s. It was called Jack LaLanne, and she does a 30-minute exercise. She swears that that wellness practice, along with her daily prayers, is why she has lived such a long and happy life. And I know she's right. But I'm here to tell you today that if we adopt being giveful, if we make giving and receiving a wellness practice, we too will live a much happier, longer, healthy life. It will actually elevate the overall experience we get to have on this planet as human beings. My mother called me the other day and she said, I took a tumble. I was like, oh my God, Mom, what did you do? And she said, Patty, I got up. My mother's 96 years of age. So what is being giveful? Well, the word giveful actually means filled with a giving heart. It's an old English term that nobody's using, so I kind of plucked it out of the dictionary. But for me, being giveful is actually the currency of our souls. It's the way that we care for and communicate with each other every day. It's how we share energy. I think it's how we share love. Being giveful, the wellness practice, that definition is the continuous, conscious, creative giving of yourself to others while being open to receiving. It's continuous for me because when you're being giveful, you are not giving, you have actually become a giveful being. It's conscious because you're aware, you're present, you're proactive. You know yourself, you know what gifts you have, and you're aware of all the opportunities around you. And it's creative because you get to innovate how and when you share your gifts with the world. So I want to give you an example of a real simple way that being giveful helped me the other day. I was on the elevator going up to see my mother. I was carrying her groceries, including a bouquet of flowers. I was dropping the groceries off, picking up her laundry. It was hot. I was not in a good mood, and I was feeling sorry for myself. I'm on this elevator, and this little man gets on. He's alone. He's hunched over. He must have been 100. And I thought, I could be giveful, or I could just stay here in this funk. So I chose to use one of my gifts, which is I could talk to anybody, any place, anytime, just ask my husband. And so I looked at this guy and I said, hello, sir, how are you today? And he turned and looked at me and he said, I am great. Whoever you're going to go see, you are going to make them very happy. And I smiled and said, thank you. So I helped him out the door. He headed down the hall. The next thing I know, I'm coming up on him. And I didn't want him to feel rushed. So I said, I'm sorry, I don't want you to think I'm following you. And he stopped and turned around and he said, this happens every time I meet a pretty woman. I belly laughed. I could not believe that gentleman was that witty. By the time I got to my mom's door, I was in a much better mood. So look what happened. I was giveful. I gave a simple introduction. I recognized a gentleman on the elevator. He saw me. He saw the work I was doing for my mother. He made me laugh, and he called me pretty. Those are 3 things I really needed that day. So why am I, a 64-year-old, semi-retired grandmother of 4, telling you about giving? Well, I feel like I've spent my whole life learning about giving. I'm one of 8, so when you live in a house with 10 people, You have to live in community. You have to learn to share, even if you don't want to. We had one bicycle, one bathroom, one car. I had 5 sisters. We shared a sock drawer and an underwear drawer. So it's kind of part of who I am. And it was no surprise. My mom and dad were both really hardworking people, and they were very honest. One day I came home, I was so excited. I found a $20 bill on the sidewalk in my neighborhood. I said to my dad, "Look at this, I'm rich." He said, "Patty, after dinner, you need to go out and find who lost that money." I was like, "Are you kidding, Dad? People lie." I was teaching him about people, right, at the age of 10. He said, "It doesn't ever matter what anyone else does. All that matters is what you do. And when you do the right thing, goodness always comes back. Those who give, receive," right? So next thing I know, I'm on Mrs. Minder's porch. It's obvious she's lost the money. She gives me a big hug, gives me $2. I'm headed home. I feel great. I feel connected to my dad in a way I'd never felt connected. And I had money in my pocket. Those who give, receive. How many of you have heard that before? Those who give, receive. How many of you believe it? Well, I am with the perfect audience today because, like I said, by the time you leave here today, I want you to have adopted giving and receiving as a personal wellness strategy. I want you to do it because I know it's the right thing to do. I know it makes you happier and healthier, but I also think it's what we want to do instinctively. We are wired as human beings to be giveful. Our body actually feels better when we do something for someone else. You get a hit, a high, a helper's high. There is a whole lot of data out there, medical data, that talks about the benefits, both physical and mental and emotional benefits of living a giveful life. They say that if you routinely give every day on a regular basis, you may live longer, be less likely to have heart disease, dementia. You'll be happier. You have a sense of purpose and personal satisfaction. I also think really fast you leave this physical space and you get into the religious and spiritual space. Every religion, every major religion on the face of this earth teaches some form of those who give, receive. And some of them actually say the receiving will be exponential to your giving. So how do you do this? How do you practice? It's really simple. They're just 3 steps. Awareness, action, acceptance. Awareness. Know yourself and be aware of the opportunities. Know what makes you happy. Know what your gifts are. And then see the opportunities as they fly by you. See that person who needs a compliment or a hug. See that kid in the office who's floundering in his job. Call your nephew back. He might want a loan. It's really important that you are aware and know what you have to give. The second step is action. Take action when those opportunities meet your personal gifts, when you can do something because of who you are. Practice at least 10 minutes a day, maybe once in the morning and once in the afternoon. A real simple way to practice being giveful is just decide you're always going to do something. You're always going to open the door for the person behind you. You're always going to look at the woman who's at Kroger's checking you out in the eyes, and you're going to use her name. You're always going to let that crazy-ass driver on the right-hand side on 440 in front of you, and you're going to wave. Well, maybe not, but you could try, because that too would be giveful. It's really simple practice. It's an internal practice. Anyone can do it. So why does it matter now that we begin to practice being giveful? Why do I want us so badly to adopt this wellness practice? Well, because I think the world is really struggling. At least it is for me. A lot of people are having a hard time. There's a lot of loneliness, a lot of fear. And I'm not the only one saying that. Our Surgeon General just came out with a research report, and he said the greatest challenge for this generation is the isolation, loneliness, and lack of connection we're feeling. He actually said that that impact on our health is as bad as smoking every day. But what I was happy about is when he laid out the framework for us to recover from this isolation, this loneliness, one of his steps was to cultivate a culture of connection. Those little practices every day that let us connect with each other. And that is what being Giveful is all about, cultivating connection. And when we say we want to create a culture, realize that culture doesn't start out here, it starts in here. So as we begin to internalize this process, we begin to be Giveful, we will in fact change the culture that we create out in the world. So it does start with you. It is easy. It is internal. Another reason why I'm so passionate about sort of changing the conversation to being Giveful is I'm tired of philanthropy because it feels too limited. The root of the word philanthropy is love of humanity. But my experience is most philanthropy seems to be about what? Money. And most of us probably don't think of ourselves as a philanthropist. But all of us could be Giveful. Being Giveful democratizes philanthropy. It broadens all the things that we can bring to the table and give to each other. And now is the time to start. So I told you I wanted to bring you a gift. I hope I have. You have given me your attention. You are here today. That is really important. So I am excited that you might go home tonight and lay in bed and think, was I Giveful? And you might start to count all the gifts that came your way. But as you are beginning to adopt being Giveful, as you see how easy it is, how good it makes you feel, how healthy you will feel, I also want you to maybe think about how to help me elevate it as a Giveful movement. How do we get our family, our friends, all our neighbors practicing being Giveful with us? Well, one way is I have learned that being Giveful is extremely contagious. And we know about contagions. So maybe what you need to do is when you're practicing being Giveful, get really close to somebody and share that joy, share that experience. I was struggling. It's the first Christmas of COVID. Talked to John. I think we were all just, in a funk. My sister is a leader at Vanderbilt, so I was very aware of what was going on at Vanderbilt and how hard it was on everyone who worked there. So I got this wild idea that I was going to feed all of the Vanderbilt workers lunch. I was going to take them to lunch just so they know I saw them and I knew how hard they were working. Little did I know there were 350 people at Vanderbilt every day working on COVID. But I called Randy Rayburn, who owns Midtown Cafe, told him my idea. He said, Pat, I'll donate the food. And I was like, Randy, restaurants are struggling. I don't need you to donate the food, but I need somebody who can give me a really reasonable price and who can meet this plethora of obligations and responsibilities that Vanderbilt gave us to bring food in during COVID. And he said, I'm there. I got you covered. About a week later, I was with my Women's Presidents Group. It's a group of women CEOs, business owners that are brilliant and beautiful and add so much joy to my life. And I told them during my check-in about my activity. I told them what I was doing for myself for Christmas. I was going to feed those workers on Martin Luther King Day. They were going to get lunch from me. By the end of the meeting, I had been gifted $3,000 in contributions from those women without me even asking. It is so contagious. You will see how easy it is to bring other people into the Giveful fold. So please don't keep your joy a secret, share it. It has been my pleasure to be with you today. I hope, like I said, that tonight you remember this talk, you think about what I'm asking, and you trust me that being Giveful will elevate your overall experience as a human being, and it will start to change the world back to the kind of collaborative, cooperating entity that we want. So I'm just going to leave you with one story. I was in Leadership Nashville. I was in Memphis. I was listening to a preacher talk about all the work he was doing in the streets of Memphis, taking care of people, feeding people. And he said his one goal in life was he wanted to die empty. And so I raised my hand and I said, I don't understand what that means. You want to die empty. And he said, the only thing I don't want to have happen is when I die and I show up in those pearly gates, I don't want to have to explain to anyone why I brought back one gift that was given to me by God for me to use in this lifetime. Because all those gifts that were given to me to give to someone else. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been my pleasure.